Aloha, everyone, and welcome back to Awakening to the Magic of the Menstrual Cycle. I have the beautiful Miss Marcia Lopez here today. Welcome, Marcia. I'm so excited to have you.
Hi, Angel. I'm excited to be here. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yay! I remember when I first came across your website, just feeling like, oh my gosh, I really hope that I get her. I really hope that I get to talk to her because I just felt like you had some wisdom to share. So I'm really happy to have you on.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. So whoever's watching, hi. Are we good? Have you mentioned that you've been recording some of these interviews during the pandemic?
um I mean, I don't think that I actually have addressed it directly. Maybe I have. I know that we've touched on it a little bit throughout the process, but yeah, it's been an interesting journey right now in this chapter.
Yeah, we're living through a pandemic. We've lived through I think some of the most intense parts. But yeah.
Totally. It's a very exciting time to be alive on the planet right now.
Yes.
Okay, so I would love for you to share a little bit about your work and, some of your journey that brought you to it and what you do.
Totally. So I am a holistic female reproductive wellness practitioner. I am an expert really on holistic clinical applications of folk medicine for the reproductive system of the female body. I have been in practice specializing in that work for 10 years, and I've been in practice as a holistic practitioner in body work, massage therapy, yoga for over 15 years. And I've opened a center, and I'm closing the center now because of the pandemic. But I have, kind of come to this work with the philosophy of defining true healing on a collective level. And when I first started doing holistic work, the reason why I came across the name true healing was because I needed to define it. What did that mean? What is true healing in this time? A lot of the impetus to healing work came because of intersectionality, looking at my experience as a first generation child of immigrants from Guatemala, growing up in Central LA, looking at socioeconomic disparities, and looking at my life and the healing that needed to happen because of the multiple experiences that I had on various levels of trauma and abuse that I experienced. And so I came across yoga at an early age, I think when I was 10 years old, and that just really laid this foundation of a spiritual path for me. And when I became older and I went to school for philosophy. I majored in philosophy. I was going to be a lawyer. I had more traumatic things happened, and so this question is like, okay, what is this all about? How am I supposed to heal from these things in this world that is kind of based on a foundation of violence? Of violence towards women, of violence towards children, of instilling instilling the need for violence in men, in order for them to be men. And so I was, it was just this huge question, like, how am I going to heal here? And what is true healing anyway? What does that mean? And so for me, the big process was understanding myself, because of because of reading yoga and studying yoga. So coming back to self and having all this self-awareness so I could self-heal. And so true healing, the foundation was in self-healing. But in order to self-heal, it was, it requires this massive understanding of self, and so what is self? And, going back to the basics, and understanding that our first, we are self within relationship with nature. and our first relationship with nature is food. And, you know, you're an Ayurvedic practitioner, so you know that, you know, the art of living is so based on food and how we eat, and it's our relationship with nature and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the essence of life and vitality that's in the food. And
Yes.
so it's this ethereal etherical understanding of life that I was mostly always in, you know. So I was always in, you know, multiple dimensions as I was moving through life in order to define these concepts of true healing. And as a bodyworker, as a massage therapist, as a body worker, I, you know, specialized in cranial sacral therapy, specialized in injury rehab. And I wanted to get to the meat of the work. And so I always worked for physical therapists. And so I got my hands on, you know, people recovering from stroke, people recovering from, you know, cancer, multiple mastectomies, things like that. And so I
Mm-hmm.
learned a lot of techniques to address really, you know, difficult issues. And I ended up specializing in high risk pregnancy. And from there, I finally came across a book about Mayan work, Mayan abdominal therapy. And it was my first time, excuse me, I have an itchy nose, my first time, you know, coming across philosophy that's centered around the female reproductive system.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, just starting to gain this wisdom, this other truth, you know, versus, you know, food being our relationship with nature. But then the other truth is that every single human being was born in the womb, every single human being gestated in the womb, and every single human being who has life on this planet, who has blood flowing through their body, they receive that blood through the womb. And that blood is made by the food that we eat, the air that we breathe, the water we drink. And so it's been just this spiral, this dance of coming back to truths, to trueness, to what is true healing. You know, so if we hold these truths, right, we all came from the womb, our blood comes from the womb that we were in. Food is part of what makes up, you know, the blood, and
Mm-hmm.
the womb is held within the pelvis, this bone structure. How do we define our healing from knowing that, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's been, you know, that's been the trajectory that I've been going on, is trying to understand what is true healing. So, and then what is women's true healing? And then, of course, you can extrapolate any gender from that, and anything, you know, what is society's true healing? But also, and realizing all the blockages to true healing is having to become very clever, very savvy, and very articulate in this work, so I can supersede these blockages, or I can dissipate those blockages, or I can move through those blockages in a way that this truth, this philosophy of true healing, is irrefutable, right?
Yeah.
True healing is this. This is logical. This is reasonable. This is irrefutable. And if a system in society irrefutes it, it's so evident that there's a flaw in that system, not in the truth.
Mm.
So that's also been part of this work too, right? For
Yeah.
me, you know. So it's been like, it's been a lot of strategy.
It definitely sounds like you've had your hands deep in this life puzzle and working through it and observing it and figuring things out, and that is, from my perspective, the type of experience and work and wisdom that is gained that is priceless, which is why I find women like you so valuable, because you've been in the field, in life, getting your hands dirty, experiencing it, experiencing the trauma, experiencing the insane amount of momentum that we have been up against when we have been trying to heal, every single one of us. And that creates an embodiment that I think only experience can give someone. And that allows you to hold a kind of space for other people's healing that I think only the journey through the experiences that you have gone through provides you with.
Yes. Yes. Also, and coming through that journey, okay. Because some of us can go through that journey and, get pretty beat up over it and not really recover. But learning how to thrive, learning how to still reach a level of okayness.
Yeah.
That is a testimony. It's like, yes, we can do this work and we're going to be all right, and we can thrive and we can be happy and we can still be learning and we can still go through difficulty and go through conflict and still be all right. And I think that piece is also really important right now to remember and to exemplify, and to also still be a testimony for it. We can be all right through all of this.
Definitely. I think the resilience of the human spirit is just incredible. And that's that piece is another reason why I find having each other to be so valuable, especially when we're moving through challenges like healing and trauma and a lot of uncertainty like we're in right now, because all of us, forget sometimes that we're going to be okay. When you're like in it and you're like in the work, sometimes you need someone to remind you of that,
Well, I mean, Angel, there's also the truth that sometimes we don't end up okay, and I think that is also okay, that it's a validation. And that's why we have, that practice of gratitude is so important, because when we're in the thick of it, when we're not okay, when the truth of our circumstance is also irrefutable, like this is not okay, like this is a daily immersion into triggers and trauma, whatever circumstance we're dealing with, it's not okay. And to have that practice of gratitude to get you through it is also important, because in this work of doing women's healing, I've had a lot of teachers, and you encounter so many things. You encounter the shadow, you encounter the light, and you encounter a huge realm of possibilities for anyone that does this work, because it is traversing the shadow, it is traversing the darker side of our nature. And our potential to be okay is there. Will everyone take it? Not necessarily, but there's a quote that I like, that I've always loved. It's by Kurt Vonnegut. I don't know if you've ever read Kurt Vonnegut, Breakfast of Champions.
I haven't read it, but I know of him.
I love him. But he has this one quote that says, in the end, everything was beautiful and nothing hurt at all. And every time I get through like a really difficult time in my life, I just remember that quote, like, in the end, everything was beautiful, nothing hurt at all. Because there was this constant practice of gratitude that I will stick to. It's like, you could be going through even with this pandemic, it was horrific. It's been horrific. The mental aspect of it was horrific for many, and we're still not out of it.
Yeah.
But having, like sticking to the spiritual practice, sticking to the gratitude really got me through, because horrible things are happening all over the world. This very, we were immersed into chaos, but the birds were still singing, and the sky was still blue,
and the sun still came out,
and I was having some of the most interesting dreams about candy. And I was just like the dream realm was so sweet. And I'm like, wow, a
Yeah. The
what a
dream
rite of
world, really.
passage we went through and are still going through.
Definitely. And on such a collective level, it is incredible to live through this.
It's like we went through puberty or something. Like we had a growth spurt that was insane with like fevers and everything.
Definitely.
It was crazy. But and even within the pandemic, right? Not everybody, there was a lot of death that has happened. There are people that have still not recovered financially.
Mm.
It's like I had to close down my center and open up into new things. And it was difficult for me. Like right now, I'm in a good place right now. I'm good. So we're able to do this interview. But the first couple months, definitely, it was like crawling under barbed wire. It was all kinds of analogies
Mm.
to use. Um,
Yeah. That's
but
a great one, though.
so it's like trying to get through this unscathed. With that truth is like some people don't end up all right. There's a lot of loss of life and there's a lot of loss of homes right now in different parts of the world.
All
So
kinds of challenges and unexpected things. And that's where I feel like having a spiritual practice or foundation, like that's really when it comes in handy, is when you are challenged beyond belief every day and the foundation of your entire life is either shaking or crumbles underneath you. That's what you have to come home to, is just what you said in the very beginning, is knowing the self. And I think that was a really important piece, because that's not even something that I've touched on, but that is so important. And when you really cultivate that relationship with yourself, that's how you can move throughout the world and know where your boundaries are with everything else and how to be okay. But you have to have that foundation within yourself first. And it is very much a spiritual relationship to have with yourself, to have faith that something's going to pull you through when you can't see straight and nothing is okay and the whole world is turning upside down and you're just being challenged to the max.
completely, because even there was a lot of people that I did talk to, and the pandemic being what it was, they still had the perspective like this isn't the worst thing that can happen. This isn't the worst thing that I have lived through. Some people
Mm,
are living through the death of their children.
mm,
Some people are living through the loss of their beloveds. And
mm.
even though this pandemic was as catastrophic as it was for many, this wasn't the worst that they had lived through. You
Yeah.
know, but going back to that sense of being all right, for many, it's their spiritual practice or it's their mission in life that does allow them to be all right in spite of, such traumatic things that can happen to us, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that is really what it, you know, one of the parts about true healing is really like what is our foundation,
Mm-hmm.
So if whatever it is for anybody, their spiritual practice, their mission,
Definitely.
you know,
Have
they're,
something to believe in.
if they're cultivating that foundation.
Yeah.
Uh, but one thing during this pandemic, actually, feeling calm in my womb really carried me through.
Mm.
I was like, holy crap, like my womb is all right. And it was almost like this beacon, like my womb being so calm in my womb, because I had, been cultivating, this work for so long. Being calm in my own body, specifically my womb, allowed me to move forward in a way that was important. Like all the decisions I was making, like were spot on. I needed to make them. And these decisions did not involve being on social media. These decisions did not involve like talking about it. I moved very methodically
Mm.
through the pandemic. And it was basically ensuring my wellness, ensuring the wellness of my family, ensuring the wellness of my loved ones, and then mitigating as much financial damage as I could. Um, but it all stemmed from having this relationship of developing self, you know,
Mm.
being centered in self. And for the female body, or for any human body, that center is within the pelvis,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah. And I feel like one of the things that cultivating this type of work and healing with yourself and the womb even, um, I see it's like signature of the menstrual cycle for me is it's in constant flux. We're always moving through different seasons and shifting in hormones, and it's the menstrual cycle is a beautiful teacher and tool for how to be okay when you're not okay, to know that it's gonna be okay, and that it's okay if you're not okay, to like have the validation that whatever you're feeling and experiencing is totally right and appropriate for you, and to not like immediately run away from the discomfort, which is what so much of us, we want to do when it gets uncomfortable. We don't want to deal with it because it's uncomfortable, and for me, part of journeying through the like working with the menstrual cycle in a conscious way teaches that, and it kind of like it's like a healthy conditioning to be able to like you said, move methodically through the chaos when it's time and you really need to move through it and be okay and get through it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it teaches you how to be with different emotions. And this is a piece that I've really been thinking about lately, that the menstrual cycle can like help just human beings in general be okay with the different cycles of life, and just like death, for instance, because like we go through a birth and death process each month. When we bleed, we're like uh, grieving the death of like our old self and then rebirthing ourselves in each cycle. And I think that grieving process of letting go and the really difficult parts of life, working with the menstrual cycle in a conscious way, can help cultivate strength within us so that we can move through those things in a healthy way and process them and honor our experience and our emotions so that we don't like stay stuck and suffer for longer than we need to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm thinking of the conversations we had prior to, like, hitting record, and in talking about creating a lifestyle where you have that space to have that relationship with your menstrual cycle
Mm.
is really important, and I think cultivating a lifestyle that allows you to have a relationship with yourself is what can help you get through things,
Mm.
so when I was asking you, like, how did you come about, to having this relationship with your menstrual cycle, um because for me it was the way I work. I have a private practice. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't work for anybody. All of this was a master plan to be with myself, to have a different lifestyle than what we've been offered, where
Mhm.
when you're in elementary school, you have to do PE. even if you're on your period, and your period isn't an excuse for you to get out of PE, and it isn't an excuse
Mm,
for you to not go to school. Oh, come on, everybody gets cramps, you know.
mm,
And so that, you know, the idea of shutting down the awareness of ourselves, the ability to cultivate that awareness of ourselves gets blocked in this society that is so industry based. You know, it's an industrial society. It was part of the industrial revolution where labor is the most important thing. You're supposed
yep.
to go to work, you're supposed to go to school, and
Productivity at all costs.
productivity at all costs. And so for those of us who have been living on the fringe of what we think is ideal, you know, I didn't resonate with that. It wasn't cultivating my healing. I have a lot of trauma that I needed to recover from, and I needed to find a lifestyle that allowed for my healing to develop, which included having a relationship with my menstrual cycle,
Mm,
you know. And so that, I think, is a big piece for a lot of people. How do they cultivate this kind of life for themselves? You know, where they
definitely.
can have this relationship where they can understand the death process in, you know, kind of benign aspects, you know, with the menstrual cycle, you know, how they can understand letting go and cultivation on a cyclical basis, you
Mm,
know. And that is the thing that we have a huge potential to achieve right now, especially because of this pandemic. um, you know, I think for me, I'm really excited because a lot of people are realizing how much they went to work when they were sick.
yeah.
You know, it's like there's flu seasons happen every year. I have chronic obstructive pulmonary disease because of my asthma. That was one of the major reasons why I came into yoga when I was a kid. And I went
Mm,
to the ER last year in June 2019, and I had to have a breathing treatment. I was having a major asthma attack. And they're like, you're moving into the first stage of COPD now, you know, because
mm,
it's long standing kind of genetics. You know, it's like I have to be really, really cognizant of my healing process. And so I definitely did not want to get sick. And I had to look back on other years. Like I got the avian flu when H1N5 came across in 2013. I ended up
mm,
getting walking pneumonia. I had to get the Z pack.
mm.
Um, And I'm just, you know, remembering all these years of being sick, of feeling ashamed, of canceling clients because I was sick,
Mm,
of having clients come to see me even when they were sick, and feeling
mm-hmm.
entitled to still having me work on them when they're sick. Having people, you know, not cancel their like dates with me or meetups with me, even when they're sick, and they get into my car and it's like, oh, I'm so sorry, like I have a, and that's like, you can cancel, you know. But
Totally. We
you know,
just don't know that. We're so conditioned to not ever honor our needs.
we're ashamed for honoring our needs. Our bosses will shame you for calling in.
Yes.
Your bosses will shame you for calling in sick if you have too many cramps, you
Mm,
know. And so this right now, we do have a huge possibility here to make the foundation of our relationship with ourself be primary,
mm,
you know. And being able to have a relationship or to have a lifestyle where you can enjoy your period, where you
mm,
can enjoy, excuse me, your menstrual cycle, and you can enjoy the understanding of all the nuances that your blood brings you.
mm.
How do you do that, you know? And I think for the listeners, it's like, how will they do that? You know, for you, I asked you, you're living in Hawaii, and I've been to Hawaii once in my life. I love it. Everybody will be healthy in Hawaii. Not really, don't go to Hawaii right now. Leave Hawaii alone. They don't want you there right now. None of the islands have the virus. Well, Hawaii does, but like a lot of Pacific islands don't. They don't want
Mm,
travelers right now.
totally.
Their population could get decimated. You know, they don't have the resources. But
Yeah.
you know, you were telling me, you know, you ended up landing a great job that ended up allowing you to cultivate this. And I think for whoever's listening, if you make your health a priority, you will cultivate a lifestyle that you can have a consistent relationship with your menstrual cycle or with your womb if you no longer have a menstrual cycle. And I think that is a honorable and noble goal in life, to have a lifestyle that honors your health.
Definitely.
You know, and for women and for bleeders, anybody who bleeds,
Mm-hmm.
to have a lifestyle that honors your bleeding time.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you? You know, because it's different for both of us. You know, for Angel, it's going to be, you know, your lifestyle that honors your bleeding time is going to look different than my lifestyle that honors my bleeding time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you know, you know, we're not all going to bleed the same. You know, I'm good with Netflix and some hot zucchini and potato soup in a, you know, in my bed, as long as nobody messes with me.
Yeah, as long as you could just rest. Sometimes that's what a woman needs most, is just to be able to rest.
Sometimes all you need to do is rest, you know. And conversely, you know, not being so attached to that though is also important, because I did have a friend who was training for
I
a
agree.
triathlon, and she called me the night before her triathlon. She's like, I just got my period. Oh my God, what do I do?
Oh,
And you know, there was times,
dang.
exactly, but at the same time, it's like, I also live by the codes of women warriors. How many times
Mm.
has a woman warrior had to go into battle on her menstrual cycle? It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
ideal. It's not what we're supposed to do, but she can
Yeah.
rise up to the challenge. And so I was just like, I just pumped her up. I'm like, girl, women warriors have been doing this forever. This isn't your MO. You're not always gonna do this, but right now you gotta rise up to the challenge. Talk to your womb. She knows she can do it.
Oh, I love that.
Well, still, in cultivation of a lifestyle that honors your health always, how do we do that? And so I think this is a really amazing question for your listeners or whoever's listening to ask themselves right now, like, what does that look like for me? Like, what would it look like for me to have a lifestyle that honors my health, that would honor my moon time, that would allow me to have a relationship with my menstrual cycle? And for some, it's going to require them to look at the things that are blocking them from
Mm.
having a relationship with their health and a relationship with their menstrual cycle. And that part can be painful. That part can be painful in acknowledging what those blockages are, because sometimes it's the people in their lives. Sometimes
Mm.
it's the jobs that they have. Sometimes it's their addictions. Sometimes it's their habits.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's their own, you know, cognitive dissonance,
definitely.
you know, their own cognitive behavioral issues that are keeping them.
Yeah, and I feel like once we really start making headway on healing um, this belief that honoring your health is a weakness, like you said, that's always shamed. Even it starts like when we're in school, and no job ever thinks that it's okay for anyone to honor their health. So it's like deeply embedded in us. And I know that that's one of the things that women that I have talked to and worked with struggle with when they're asking me for advice about how to, honor their cycles more. Most of the time, we don't know how to rest. We don't even know how to give ourselves permission to not be in go mode all the time. And when we do, we feel guilty about it. And just that alone is hard to just stop or slow down.
Not only that, Angel, parents are shamed if they need to stay home because their child is sick, you know, and then they're shamed by the school, provided
Mm. Mm.
you know, you have to jump through all these hoops to justify your need for wellness.
Yeah. It's a really powerful, big, important piece that I have personally been looking at through the years of knowing that I'm called to be bringing this work to more women and empowering more women to start honoring their own needs. That is a piece that I've looked at and just been like, oh, I don't even know how, because I understand the system very well that we're all up against, and how it, I'm pretty sure all kinds of women would love to just stay at home and be by themselves and bleed and rest if they could. But where we're at on the planet in our society, it doesn't make it easy like that. So I think it requires that tapping into that warrior woman, like you said, and really, like you said, looking at your life and making a decision to prioritize your health and being up for the challenges that you're going to face in your life and some of the adjustments that are going to have to happen.
Yeah.
When you really make that decision that your health and your own well-being is important enough for you to make a stand for.
Yeah. I think what you just said was really important, being up for the challenge.
Yeah.
Making your well-being a priority. And I think a lot of people were so seduced by comfort, by this idea of the comfort that easily fell away during this pandemic. We're seduced by that. We're seduced by, the fruits of colonization, the fruits of imperialism that said we can travel wherever we want, whenever we want to.
And do whatever we want.
We can buy whatever we want, whenever we need, as long as we have money.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. This pandemic showed us, it has showed us a lot. What are we willing to do for the sake of everybody's health? How many people flipped their lid because of this? How many people were, flipping out about their right to travel and not recognizing the rights of other countries to not let you in,
Yeah. It brought up so much.
It brought up a lot. And there are some challenges that can come. But having a spiritual foundation, having this foundation of wanting to know what true healing is, really showed me, it's like, okay, there are some challenges. Do I have the strength to come up to face these challenges? And what I did a lot during this pandemic was a lot of prayer, was a lot of spiritual practices that actually required taking in all of this heavy energy and processing it out with Mother Earth, of giving out semblances of calmness, of peace, of ability, sending love, sending prayers, praying people up that I normally would not have prayed at, that people would not want to pray over or pray for. And it really required me to look at all these systems, including our governance of, the systems of government. There's a lot of people and there's a lot of systems that we're looking at. How can we be in right relationship with all of this? And it's a challenge. And are we willing to face up to the challenge, or do we just want to go back to normal?
That's not even an option.
It was horrible.
Totally. And everyone's been so sick and suffering. And
so sick. Everybody had to, and then there's children in cages.
And,
we have rampant problem of sex trafficking and human trafficking. And all of that, I'm sure, all of that obviously still going on even during the pandemic. And there's some deep problems in our world. And are we willing to rise up to the challenge of addressing them? The truth also is that there are a lot of people in this world that love this world and that love humanity and that are praying for this world consistently and daily. And when you don't have the strength to rise up to the challenge, always, always know that we are in a human fraternity of people who are constantly praying. that there will be others that will still be praying, waiting for you to be able to rise on up again and to pray, because
Mm.
we always will have challenges. Will we be willing to rise up to them, just like you said? Because we're we're all praying. There's praying is happening all the time, and there's good people, and there's people that want to take care of each other. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, every aspect of our life, of our human life, requires healing. You know, every
Definitely.
aspect of our human life requires a knowledge of how to take care of ourselves, of how to stay healthy. You know, from our
Mm-hmm.
politicians to our pets, you
Yep.
know, there's a lot of wisdom that we need on how to take care
Definitely.
of ourselves, our digestion, our, immunity, our mobility. Everybody needs more wisdom in that, and everybody deserves it, because the more of us that are well, that's
And sovereign.
it's it keeps expanding exponentially. One person healing is not just one person healing. It's such an interconnected thing.
Hmm.
And it is a very, very drawn out process. And sometimes it feels like you're not making any progress, but sometimes you'll have moments where you're like, oh my God, I made a lot of progress.
Yeah,
And it's a lifelong thing. But it
definitely.
does, just like you said, Angel, it does require us to rise up to the challenge, to step up to that challenge.
Yeah. And I just want to add something to that, which I'm sure you can totally relate to. The way that the system of our society has been structured to not allow anybody to honor their needs, like, it's not necessarily an easy thing to cultivate a life that allows you to honor your needs and your menstrual cycle. It's not necessarily easy, but it's possible. Like, it has taken me years. I'm sure it, like, you had to build yourself your whole own like empire to support you so that you could honor your needs. And that's something that I've been doing too. I'm not as far along in the professional practice as you, but I know the difficulty and the challenge of it when you're really set on honoring your own well-being as being a priority in your life. There's just so many things that are going to come up to like challenge you, and there's not instructions, there's not a manual on how to go about this. And it's unique for each individual, like you said before, and it requires each human being to be determined, to be willing to rise up to the challenge, to have faith, and to believe that it's possible for them, and to know that it might not happen tomorrow, but you just keep making baby steps and you stay anchored into that belief that you deserve to have a life that supports your well-being, and eventually it's going to happen for you.
Yeah. And that's, another thing you just said, to have the faith. The faith is so important, because some of these challenges will come, or can come. I won't say will, because everybody's unique, but they can come from the people that you love the most.
Mm-hmm.
They can come from the most important people in your life, those
Yeah,
blockages. And there is no manual on how to address it when it happens, And
definitely.
when you say faith, so I know that you're a woman of faith. I know that you're a woman that has, cultivated a relationship with spirit. So you know the rewards that come from that. And I
Mm-hmm.
can say the same thing, that if we have that faith and we have that belief that this is important, you will find the way. It'll be unique to you. Like, I won't be able to tell you what it is. You won't be able to tell them what it is. Only spirit will.
Yep.
And spirit will let you know what is right for you, will help you, will guide you, will show you, will bring the right situations to you.
Mhm.
And I think all we can really say to that is just to have that faith, to just to have that belief, have that conviction that this is
Mhm.
important, that your wellness is important, that the wellness of this world is important, you know?
Definitely. I just wanted to add, I don't know if it's like the perfect quote or not, but this is something that have thought about many times throughout my own journey of being up against seemingly impossible challenges. When you really have that faith, that's when doors can open for you where there were only walls before. It's that faith that creates doors where there was once a wall, that allows miraculous experiences into your life and help in ways that you could not have ever seen. It's when you really allow a conscious sharing of your experience with whatever higher power you believe in, and knowing that no matter what life challenge you are faced with right now, it's not just you working on it. You have help from someone who has a much broader perspective of things
Yeah.
as your teammate.
Yes. Yes. And when you have that, you develop this resonance where you can start tapping in and honoring that relationship, that energy with, with everyone who's in it, and during the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic, Ramadan started. And I thought, oh my God, what a blessing for all of us that Ramadan is starting and we have the Muslim world praying for us right now, praying for their wellness and the protection of their family and their safety and their healing, and also praying for others. Ramadan is the 40 days, I hope I'm right, of fasting from sun up to sunrise and just building this cultivation with spirit. And I thought we are so blessed right now to have this opportunity, to have this happen in the same time frame, to have this coincide,
Yeah,
you know?
it's a beautiful perspective that I didn't even consider.
Oh girl, I was going through it all. I was like this. Just keep praying right now.
Definitely.
You
I
know?
find it interesting how sometimes, especially when you really, really dedicate yourself to cultivating and being true to that relationship, not only with yourself, but with a higher power, how when challenges do arise, they can kind of arise conveniently like that. Like, okay, so shit's hitting the fan, but also there's this really beneficial thing happening at the same time to kind of like help you through it and balance it out, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I kept telling my boyfriend, I'm like, this is all good bad. It's good bad. Good bad. Okay, good bad again. Okay, good bad. Good bad. It's loving good bad, babe.
Definitely. And I
Yeah.
think it helps to be able to like zoom out a little bit and
Yeah.
see things from a broader perspective, and um, like try to see things from more like a soul level, and observe the themes that are happening, and some of the necessary shifting, even if it's uncomfortable and traumatic for the collective. It's just some things that have been needing to be released and surfaced so that we can witness it and heal from it. Um,
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
We needed to witness a lot. We definitely needed to witness a lot, and we needed to hold a lot of different perspectives during this time, Um,
definitely.
and I still, but I still do feel the work that I've done with womb healing, with female reproductive wellness, it's still foundational. If
Mm.
we can heal our relationship with the menstrual cycle, and so much. if we can heal our relationship with birth, you
Mm.
know, that, you know, when hospitals were requiring women to birth by themselves,
Mm.
I was crushed, and I was reading these stories, and you know,
Gosh.
some of these women, God bless them, and you know, being in ceremonies and in workshops on Zoom to kind of send prayers out for that. But the trauma that they had to endure to birth during this time when they were not allowing even their birth partner there,
Mm.
let alone doulas, that was horrific. But the birthing community rose up and got
Mm.
that changed. You know, that changed
Thank goodness.
quickly. Thank goodness.
Thank
But
goodness.
we
Oh my
didn't
gosh.
stay on that trajectory because menstruation, healing our relationship with menstruation is one thing. You know, healing our relationship with birth. Birth should always be sanctified. Always, 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 always.
Mm-hmm.
If every hospital, if every city, if every ordinance, if every council, if every government system, big to small, it just acknowledged that birth is fundamentally one of the most important things that can happen in our life.
Absolutely.
We must
Absolutely.
protect it at all costs. How would
Yeah.
that change things? You know, so that's one thing. And then the second thing is, you know, our sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Is our sexuality respectful of others? Is our sexuality creating damage to any member in our society?
Definitely. And are we educating our youth appropriately on their sexual energy and
At
how
an
to have right relationship with it?
and at an appropriate time.
Yeah.
Are we protecting our youth and their sexuality, however it's emerging? You know, specifically speaking about trans children, are we protecting them? Are
Mm.
we ensuring that no harm comes to them?
Mm. Yeah.
And when this pandemic happened, you know, it was appalling. It was so heartbreaking that here, what we were seeing happening is the rise of domestic violence abuse cases and the rise of sexual abuse cases during this
Mm.
pandemic. So now you get to be at home with the people that you live with,
With your
and
abuser.
it so happens to be your abuser.
Mm. Yeah.
And so for me, what I saw is like this is what allows for our society to be dysfunctional when the dysfunction begins in the home. So
Definitely.
how are we healing that? How are we, you know, healing that? And I do believe that it comes at birth, because if a birthing person feels safe, knows that they will be taken care of after birth, knows that they
Mm-hmm.
will have support with their child, it'll change the psychology
Absolutely. And the entire experience of birthing.
and the entire experience, and it'll change the psychology of everything.
And the baby. Because
And the
I
baby,
personally feel like that the way that a baby comes in, that affects them somehow.
it does, yes. There's, you know, the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton is proving this. You know, it's proved that. You know, there's the perinatal psychology or prenatal psychology is proving that.
Mm.
You know, our experiences at birth. I have an amazing teacher, Rochelle Segalia from Innate Traditions. She's pushing this movement on postpartum care. But these are
Good.
foundational pillars of our society. How does this society become if it isn't because of birth? How does
Yeah.
birth happen? Is it if it isn't because of menstruation
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, and sexual intercourse? And how do we raise a new society that does not use sexuality to harm anybody else?
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do we raise a society where we can be respectful of everybody's expression of sexuality, as long as it's not harming anyone, including
Definitely.
themselves? I think, you know, I think it is important that we cultivate love and peace in every aspect of ourselves, and that sexuality isn't harming on any level. And so
It's
that,
supposed to be a really beautiful thing. And it's a really big part of being a human that is just
fun, which is
suppressed and
good,
shamed.
not ashamed
Yeah.
of using sexuality to hurt other people, including children.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't hurt people who are incapacitated or who have no ability to understand what is happening or can
Yeah.
consent to this.
Well, and I think that comes back to just the whole way that society is structured and has been structured that doesn't honor anyone's needs, and that in turn doesn't allow anyone the space that they need to truly heal. That's a really big piece of it. And also just totally revamping the educational system of our youth, because that's when we need to be teaching them about their sexual energy and the menstrual cycle and all kinds of things that we haven't been teaching our youth.
Well, yes, but it also puts the responsibility on institutions. That responsibility lies within the family.
Mm.
So if you aren't healing, if you aren't taking the responsibility to cultivate a lifestyle of healing, if your family didn't, in order for you to achieve the wellness that you want, you have to do that for yourself.
Yes.
Until this becomes critical
You have to
mass.
figure it out.
Yeah,
You
right
have
now
to
it's
just,
still people on the fringe, those of us who are wanting to see something beautiful, something better happen for everybody.
mm,
We're waiting for that critical mass so that we can address things lovingly, because people who hurt other people, they don't have the ability to understand, or there's something that has
mm-hmm.
damaged them, that has hurt them. They are in pain. And maybe
Yes.
they need some isolation. Maybe they need some quarantine. Those that are molesting and abusing and raping and beating
And
others
are fragmented in their psyche.
in their psyche, and some quarantine time so they can cultivate a relationship with spirit and with healing. you know
Yeah.
I don't know, but we need to look at it rightly. And if this is happening in our own homes,
Mm.
is what allows for systems that prevent true healing to continue to perpetuate, right? If we're not addressing this in the home, and how many families collectively allow these things to happen? 2 days ago, I was listening to cumbias on the Latin station here in LA. And so there's this Latin station, and all of a sudden they have this little like thing that they do, that they call up your partner to see if they're cheating on you. They call up your partner and they say, I have free chocolates. Who do you want to send them to? And so this man called and he said he wanted them to call his wife. And this man was about 55 years old and his wife was 20, 25 or something. And he had married her when she was 17. So whatever the age was, he was well over 25 years or 55. Don't know.
A big gap of age.
Big gap, big gap. And he
Yeah.
had married her at a young age, and so he married her at 17. This is Mexico. And, I'm sure stuff happened before she turned 17. And then it turns out that this man is her uncle. His sister is her mother. And during the course of this radio station speaking about it, they were like, this is your niece?
What the hell?
And they still went ahead and called her. And then when it came out that it was him, that he's trying to like catch her cheating on him, the lady starts to shame her. Like, you knew it was your uncle. You didn't think that was bad. Like, starting to put the onus on the woman.
Jeez.
And I'm just thinking, how could you have, once you found out this was her uncle, you should have stopped this. That is a crime in Mexico. This incest, and I'm sure the child, she was 17 years old, she was underage. I don't believe it's legal in Mexico. And I was thinking,
How could you just go along with it?
how could we just go along with this? And how much do our cultures allow this to happen? And it's just not just Latino cultures, white American culture, sexual
Mm-hmm.
abuse of children is rampant in that culture. The sexual abuse
Totally.
of children is rampant in every single culture.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have to look at these ways in society, in media, where they that allow this to happen, that allow this to be like, this is okay. You know, this,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Turning a blind eye
sexual objectification.
is what we need to stop doing. And I hear you saying that it starts in the home, basically. Stopping turning a blind eye in your own home and
Yeah,
starting where you are.
exactly. Like, you know, how many, I'm not just talking about this woman's mother. I don't know who this mother is, but obviously she knows that her brother married her daughter, you know.
Yeah.
But even within it, I've come across so many people, so many partners, you know, or people who have had parents who have known things that have happened to them, and they still invite the perpetrator to the
Mm,
barbecue, to the family picnic, to the clam bake,
mm,
you know, to the sweet, you know, to the wedding.
yeah. And I think that's where another piece that just correlates to the menstrual cycle is that sacred rage that needs to be, and sacred anger that needs to be honored. And that comes out most prevalently in the premenstrual phase, where women are usually shamed for having PMS and just being bitchy, and we're so like far removed from knowing how to have a right relationship with the emotions that don't feel good. And I think a lot of people they don't know how to have a relationship with it, and it's uncomfortable and they don't want to. And that is what, you know, causes people to turn a blind eye because they don't want to ruffle feathers or, do you know
Right.
what I mean?
Well, yeah. Also, in not understanding why you have that rage, right? Because
Yes.
when it's constantly been told, like, you don't have a right to have that rage. This happened to you, but their family, they still need to come over. Or this
Mm-hmm.
happened to you, but it happens to everyone, so don't think you're special. Or this happened to
Yeah.
you, but I'm sure it was your fault. What did you do? All kinds of things. This happened to you, but
Yeah.
however you feel about it is not important, because how you feel about it is going to disrupt our status quo here in this house, or it's going
Mm,
to disrupt the status quo here in this home, this family, our extended family. So
yeah.
how you feel about it is not important. The
Yeah.
image of our family is what's most important. And so you start to suppress these feelings, and then you get PMS, and then you get all these you know, you got all these conditions, these chronic issues,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you have tried to accept, like, okay, I will not make it a big deal. Worse things happen to other people, or how I feel about it is not okay. I need to adjust myself so I can show up, and if this person shows up at the party, then I will be okay, and I'll reconfigure myself. And then
Yeah.
here comes PMS time, and you have like all these eternal conniption fits,
And you're a raging bitch
and
and you
you're
don't know why, because your own processes that are so important haven't been being honored.
mhm, mhm. And you know, obviously this, we're talking about abuse, you know, and it um but you know, usually it's long, you know, it's some aspect of abuse, some aspect of trauma that will sometimes correlate with, you know, really chronic deep-seated reproductive issues.
Mm.
But yeah, when our feelings, when our reactions to certain things are constantly disregarded by our culture, that our culture is our primary software programming of ourself. Like, this is how we learn about life, is through the culture that we grow up in, you know? And so if that culture by design is telling us that our feelings don't matter, and that the respect of our body is consequential to other people's needs, then our autonomy, our understanding, the autonomy that we have with our own feelings and emotions, it's going to be skewed.
Mm,
And
yeah.
it's another challenge, Angel, right? It's another, how do we rise to that challenge of healing ourselves?
Definitely. And that's such an old programming of like the nice girl for women to not stand up, to not cause issues, and to just deal with it. And I don't think that culturally, at least it doesn't seem like it, we really took a look at just how damaging that type of dishonoring of someone's process and emotions ends up being for the collective. That's the type of stuff that turns into serious, like, psychological issues that causes people to behave in ways that aren't okay, because there is just something that has been suppressed in them and culturally for a long time, and we've not really been able to stand up and speak out when some sort of injustice has been done to us or someone that we love, to not be able to do something about it. For how many generations we have been forced into submission and not honoring our own processes and feelings. And I think that's something that is really starting to come to the surface right now. And I personally have really been working with that in my own self, and sitting with my feelings, and when I'm upset about something, and actually looking at it and validating why I'm upset, and there being a very good reason about it, and to not just push it away because it doesn't feel good to me or I don't want to upset somebody else, but to really be like, no, this isn't okay. This doesn't feel good to me, and I'm not just going to accept it. My emotions are talking to me, and they're important messengers telling me that something isn't right in my reality, and I need to listen to them.
The path of self mastery is is difficult. It's like walking a thin line, because we do need to understand our feelings, but we also need to ensure that our rage, our wrath, our shadow does not perpetuate
Definitely.
that which we are trying to heal. And the truth is that it can be messy, and sometimes our rage and our wrath can hurt others.
Mm-hmm.
And that path of self mastery does require us to take responsibility and to learn so much about forgiving ourselves, about atoning, so we can figure out what is really required to heal these things. You know, it's difficult, Angel, also because we look at Western medical, we look at the Western medical field right now. And even when it comes to anatomy, as body workers, as massage therapists, much of what we learned about anatomy came from live vivisections during the medieval period. You know, came from the torturing and the exposure of prisoners, you know, and then much of what we learned of modern gynecology here came from the torture, the
Oh,
experimentation on Black female slaves,
oh,
and on, the anesthetizing, white women, and then doing surgeries or giving, having them give birth while they were passed out.
mm,
Um, so how we have even looked at medicine here has not even respected the body. And then it isn't old and tired yet because it hasn't been healed. We also have to look at how nations have been built. And nations were built on the need for slavery. Nations needed slavery in order for this to happen, for nations to become great, for empires to bloom. And nations also needed to commit genocide and of, putting people in open air prisons and reservations. So when we have systems that are built on subjugating and oppressing the needs of other fellow humans, it makes it difficult for us to establish the sanctity of our needs. And so, there is the talk, it is coming into awareness, what has pushed the colonized agenda, the imperialistic agenda, and the ideas of white supremacy, and in this, the white culture, it does require the white culture to look at themselves, their family structure. How does our family structure suppress the needs? How does our family structure deny the respect to the menstrual cycle, to the birthing process? How does our menstrual cycle deny the respect, or how does our culture deny the respect of children? Some of the first, the necessity and the need for child labor laws happened because of the European Industrial Revolution and how, the European children were exploited.
Yeah.
To be used for labor. What is the relationship there? How did this culture of white supremacy view their own children, which would then allow this taking of other cultures' children to indoctrinate them into these systems, right? To perpetuate this industrial revolution, this imperialism, this colonization. So when we start to take back, like, how do we heal? How do we cultivate a lifestyle where our menstrual cycle has its rightful place? How do we cultivate a lifestyle where our birth is sacred still? How do we cultivate a lifestyle where we teach other the sacredness of sexuality of their body, and give them all that they need if they want to live a life without sex, if they want to live a life with sex with people of other genders, if they want to live a life where they don't have children? How do we respect that?
Yeah.
There is a lot we have to look at, because
Yes.
how we have been living was the result of denying people sanctity and denying people their sacredness, right? From children, culture,
Across the
genders,
board.
across the board. And not only that, there was a anthropological documentary on Netflix, and this man, he's from Oregon, he's a professor, and he's been studying the bones of ancient humans, 30,000-year-old bones of humans. And there was there's a set of bones that they found at the bottom of a cenote in Mexico again. And then they pulled the bones up, and it was a young woman. She had given birth, you could tell by her pelvis, but she also had a fracture on her left forearm. And he's like, these fractures are always the results of interpersonal violence, and you see them often in these old bones. And so this wiring for violence, this wiring for domination, it's inherent in our DNA. In any culture. So let's just say, like, the white culture didn't get the gunpowder first. Does that mean, any other culture we would have had a peaceful world by default? Not necessarily. Right now, we do have to look at where we're at with, a white supremacist ideology in imperialism, through imperialism and colonization. But we also have to look at the fact that violence is inherent in the human coding. So we have to dig very, very deeply
Mm,
to start to evolve from that, to have a willful evolution from,
definitely.
from this need for violence, because violence is not secular. Violence is kind of,
It's in
everybody likes to do
the
it.
human species.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And so again, it's like rising up to this challenge to cultivate this. And if we can cultivate a lifestyle where our menstrual cycle, where we say my menstrual cycle is sacred. I don't care what this says. I'm going to take care of myself the best way I can. I can't quit my job,
Mm.
but maybe as soon as I can come home, I can put my feet up on the couch.
Do
Maybe I can
something
tell my
nice for
partner,
yourself.
my children, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to eat this kind of way. Maybe when my
Mm-hmm.
daughters have their period, I'm going to teach them differently.
Yes.
I'm going to ensure that I don't have a relationship with people where there's violence in their voice, in their speech, and in their actions to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to condone violence on another.
Yeah. I think a big part of that is raising youth differently and having elders who hold wisdom to help teach and hold space for younger generations in how to have a right relationship with your emotions and process them, because it is a fine line, like you were saying before, like the need to honor your emotions and also not be abusive with them or reactive, to really be able to learn how to, for one, know that it's okay to have the full spectrum of emotions, and how to sit with them, how to really sit with your emotions when they come up. Give yourself space to honor and process them before you involve anyone else in your process. So instead of being reactive, to be able to know that whatever emotions you're feeling is natural, and you're not supposed to feel amazing all of the time, and to have that wherewithal to sit with the discomfort and know that it's part of life, and that you are responsible for your emotions. It's not someone else's responsibility. You might be very valid in being hurt or upset about something, and that doesn't give you the right to perpetuate it and be violent and have outbursts. To really give yourself the space to sit with whatever's going on inside of you first, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
And if you can't control your emotions, if you are having outbursts, if you are having violent outbursts, maybe you need to quarantine yourself. Maybe you need to remove yourself from these environments.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in situations where the people aren't bringing out the best in you, or the environment isn't bringing out the best in you, then you have to do what you need to do to remove yourself from that. If you
And
uh-huh.
and maybe it isn't you, because I've been in that situation before where it's almost like you have blinders on and you can't even see that it's actually the environment that isn't good for you. But sometimes we can get so internalized and think that like we're the one that's messed up and we shouldn't be feeling this way, and actually your emotions are trying to tell you that something isn't good for you.
Get out. Leave. Get out. This is not healthy for you. You need to sleep in your car that night, go sleep and get out of a situation that
Definitely.
can perpetuate violence on any level. And that is very difficult, because it also, it's like attachment patterning, different things. Like, some people, like, we do crave connection so badly that we will take negative connection.
Mm-hmm.
We will take, toxic connection, because we
Yeah.
are craving connection on such, it's part of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
We're born into family. The reason why we came into this world is through connection.
Yeah.
So it requires faith. It requires rising to the challenge. It requires all these things that we've talked about, right? To say, okay, this situation I need to step out of for my well-being, or for the well-being of my children, or for the well-being of my parents, or for my siblings.
Which really comes down to valuing yourself.
Yes.
It's like really knowing that you are valuable and you do matter.
You do matter. You do. And then also, Angel, you know, like I'm not an angel. I'm not Angel. Angel, you're an angel. You know, I'm not a saint. You know, my family and even my boyfriend, you know, they all have their horror stories about me. Um, you know, and and here's the truth, you know, not every woman is not perfect.
Right.
You know, you still deserve love. So you may be someone who might be listening to this and be like, oh my God, but I have such a bad temper and I'm so angry and I've done this and I've done horrible things and da 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 da. You still deserve a great life. And you still deserve to learn how to forgive yourself, and you still deserve to know that you are worthy of love and your own protection and the own cultivation of a lifestyle that honors your menstrual cycle, if you were to give birth, that'll honor that, your sexuality. And you just still deserve to cultivate a world so that when people come into this world, they know that they're safe. So maybe you have done bad things, and we've all been there, and I have too, you know, but we can seek redemption, we can atone, and we can learn to be someone that if they come into your presence, they feel safe. They know that
Definitely.
they'll be respected. And so
Definitely.
you know, you have to believe that you have to respect yourself first, and you have to give yourself that love. But we can do it. No one on this planet is perfect, you know, except little
Right.
babies, little kids, you know,
Yep.
adults, you know, there are some people out there that are really, really good people. Okay. I'm just going to tell you that you're going to find them and you're like, dang, that's a good person. And they are. I've met some of these people that they haven't done a bad thing at all. And oh, they're a joy to be around. You know, they do exist. They do exist.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful people.
Mm-hmm.
But we make mistakes,
We
and
do. It's
we
part of the
do.
learning process.
The learning process, and maybe the people that we made the mistakes with, maybe those aren't the people that we have to stay with, you know, and we have to give those people their space, you know, and you have to grow, and the best thing that you can do is to become a better version of yourself, you know, and maybe that you will never have that relationship again where you didn't show up in the best way, but you have to have the bravery, you have to have the courage to still create a better life. You know,
Totally. And you can remake your life at any time.
yeah,
You can.
yeah,
It just really comes down to uh, knowing that it's possible for you and that you deserve it regardless of whatever you've experienced or done or anything, that you're just as valuable and you can change your life if you want to. If there's something out of alignment with it, if your emotions are indicating to you that something in your life is not in alignment with your highest good, even if you can't see a way out or through or a solution from where you currently stand, that's where your faith comes in and where you'll be able to open a door where there was just a wall. But you've really got to, make that decision for yourself and trust that you are supported by some divine power that
yeah,
loves you.
yeah. I think that's
Yeah,
right. You got to make that decision that you want health, that you want healing. You know, it might not be in the environment that you're in now. It might not be with the people that you wanted to be with, but it'll be with you, and you have to make that decision.
Definitely.
And
It all
that,
starts and ends with you.
yeah,
And when you have a right relationship with yourself, then you can have right relationships with other beings in your life, and then your whole life starts to transform.
it does. Yeah, you get yourself up into these higher levels of mastery, you'll meet other people who are in their mastery, and then you get to have a jam session.
Totally.
It's like that's music.
I
You know,
love that.
get to do the jam band.
Yep.
You know,
And like, it takes work. It's messy sometimes. It's not easy. Sometimes you're fumbling and stumbling around and you don't really know what you're doing, but you're going. And thank goodness we do get breaks sometimes. We do get breaks where we can enjoy and like unplug from the healing work and just be before another hurdle comes that we have to jump over.
oh,
And it makes those breaks in between so much sweeter when you've really had your sleeves rolled up and you've been in it doing the work on yourself and looking at all of those things that we don't want to look at.
yeah, yeah. You know, and you can see if you don't have that right now. You know, you can get the fruits of what it is to have a life that honors your menstrual cycle, of what it is to have a life that respects you, where and that respects others. We
Mm-hmm.
get to start tasting those fruits, and we get to contribute. We get to amplify this contribution to healing so
Definitely.
much, you know, and it starts with you, then it starts with the home, is what Lao Tzu's quote, you know, first change yourself, then change your home, then change your
Mm,
city, then change your state, before you can change the nation, before you can change the world.
yeah. Well, and just think about if every individual was actively working on themselves and doing what they could in their own home, we don't have to go out and change everything. Because if everyone's doing their part, then everybody's working collectively and it all is happening by each individual doing what they can where they're at.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You don't have the exactly. Your responsibility isn't for this world. Your responsibility is for yourself, and your relationship with the world is defined by that.
Yeah.
It's
That's why it's
defined,
so important.
yeah.
And that's why it's okay to value yourself and rest when you need to and say no to some of the things if you don't really want to do them and value your own needs because it is the most important work you could do for yourself and for your family, for your loved ones, for the entire planet is doing that work on yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not selfish. It's really not selfish saying no to something to honor your needs. It's actually the best thing that anyone can do for
Mhm.
anyone else.
You don't have to keep a full schedule. You know, if you're on your period and you have to work, you don't have to like meet up with your friends for Friday night drinks or Friday night movies. You can cancel, you can reschedule.
Maybe someone can help you with the dishes,
Yeah, maybe your
or
partner
you
can.
don't have to do all of the things that are always on your list.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. Pick what's important. You know, I have a saying too. Don't do today what you can do tomorrow.
I love that.
I have a big to do. I'm like, well, what don't I have to do today? Like, what can I do tomorrow? I can do that tomorrow. You
I
know,
love that.
just do today what you need to do today. You know,
Mm.
if all that is showing up at work and brushing your teeth and putting on clean clothes, just do that. You
Hey,
know,
sometimes that's an accomplishment depending on where you're at in life.
yes, yes,
Sometimes just getting up and brushing your teeth is an accomplishment.
yeah. But I think, you know, in all honesty, it is just about making a decision to make your menstrual cycle important, making a decision to make your health important. And
Definitely.
if you make that decision, then you need to find what you need to make that happen. So if you're not making that decision, if you're kind of thinking about it, is not going to happen. And you're not going to find out what you need. You need to make that decision. I'm going to make this important for myself.
It's the decision that creates the doors where there were only walls. Yeah. It is the decision that ultimately allows that divine energy to come in and support you and help guide you through when you can't see your way or how something's going to work. But just believing and having faith is what gets you. So it gets you through all the impossibilities.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Marcia, what a powerful conversation.
We had a long one.
Definitely. I'm so grateful that we had this opportunity to connect, and I'm so grateful that this is being shared with not just me and you, that this is getting out there and being shared with other women. Thank you so much for your time and for your presence. I just really appreciate and respect your spirit.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Angel. And likewise, I appreciate you cultivating this. I appreciate you making your decisions for your own health and for your people, and for, you know, seeing the need of continuing to share this and to doing a platform and to creating this, because I know it takes a lot of work to corral
women. It does.
To interview them. You know, I've done workshops and I call it herding cats. You know, we gotta herd the cats. So I know I can be very cat-like.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And I love that. And it does take work. It's my dharma, though. I have been, you know, moving through my own challenges during the process of building this. And it's been really beautiful for me to experience this and know that it is the work that I'm meant to be doing, because whatever drama is happening in my personal life or stuff going on that is bringing so much stress, when I sit down with a woman like you and get into this space and talk about this really important stuff, it has been such powerful medicine for me. And that's why I know that it's what I'm meant to be doing, because the work itself is healing for me. Connecting with women like you is healing and empowering, and I just feel so amazing after I get off of these calls. Even if I was like just having a shit day right before, I just get into this space and I just feel so good afterwards. And I'm just really grateful that I'm able to share this with the community of the women who tune into this summit, and that we have this opportunity to share in this way. So thank you so much for being here and taking the time out with me. I just want to real quick have you share your website or information or anything if people want to get in touch with you.
Definitely. My website is www.womenstruehealing.com. And right now it's kind of, there aren't any ways to book appointments simply because of the pandemic, and I need to revamp the website, but you can send me an email to womenstruehealing@gmail.com, and I'm booking consultations online through email. And you can follow me on Instagram at womenstruehealing. And I put really good posts on there, and you can sign up for my newsletter off of my website and IG. And then if you want to follow me on Facebook, my business page, Women's True Healing, I post different things on Facebook just because it's different channels that I can post articles and things like that. So you can follow me on all of those avenues. But yeah, more workshops are coming out online and through Zoom in the coming weeks. So please follow, and I'd love to have you in the interwebs, seeing you and sharing this energy. So thank you. Thank
we
you.
are reweaving the web of women around the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. if there isn't anything else that you feel we need to, I think we covered quite a bit.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was great to be here with you. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning into this. And just a lot of love and blessings to everybody. And I will see you for another episode. Have a beautiful rest of your day, Marcia.
You too. Bye.
Aloha.
Aloha.